My book, Happy Campers, 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults, is not just the story of my own camp, but is the story of many camps all over the world who are promoting the social and emotional growth of kids through intentional strategies. This bonus episode is a recording of one of my Happy Campers interviews with a camp director from one of the day and resident camps who were in my series that was originally aired on Facebook Live and is also available in video form on my website at sunshine-parenting.com. Enjoy this conversation with a camp director who runs an amazing program. Welcome, everybody, to this Happy Campers interview. Today, I'm talking with Tommy Feldman from Camp Granite Lake. If you haven't been following this series, I've been interviewing camp directors from day and resident camps from all across the United States. And we're talking specifically about all the ways that these camps intentionally help kids grow important character traits and skills at the programs during the summer. And Camp Granite Lake is no exception. They do terrific work there and are having just a lot of loyal families who really love the program. So welcome, Tommy.
Hi, Audrey.
Thanks for being on the series today.
Oh, I'm very excited.
So Tommy, I like to just start by having you talk not about your camp, but about yourself. If you could just tell a little bit about your background and your interests and just maybe your story of how you ended up where you are right now.
I get parents ask that a lot, like how did you get into this camp thing? It's a question I get all the time. And when I was 4 years old, my parents sent me to day camp for the first time. And I did that for a bunch of years until I was 10. And then they sent me off to the North Woods of Wisconsin. Now, I grew up in Cleveland area, in Cleveland, Ohio. And they sent me up to the North Woods of Wisconsin for 8 weeks as a 10-year-old. And that was, I thought, great, yeah, let's do that. And I hated it. I hated every minute of it. I had an awful cabin and I just did not like it. And at the 4-week mark, my parents came up to visit me and I was sure that I was going home at that point. And on the goodbye, they spent a day or so there, and at the time to say goodbye, they said goodbye. And my father was driving the car down the path, down the road on camp, and I'm sort of jogging along, and the tears are streaming down my face, and he's going a little bit faster and faster. He gets to the edge of the camp gate, and he hits the gas, and I'm standing there, and he's and I just watched the taillights fade into the distance, and it's pretty much as tragic as it sounds. It was terrible. So I started the long walk back into camp, and my counselor was waiting for me there on the road, he helped me make a plan to make the most of the second half of the summer, the last 4 weeks of the summer, which at 10 years old is a long time. My parents knew that camp was good for me, and they were right. And camp had been in my family. My uncle had actually gone to this camp for, many, many, many decades earlier as a kid. And so they thought I would like it. And I had a great time. I had a great time that last half. And I spent 5 more years there as a camper, and 9 more years as a counselor, and moved up to be the associate director there. And then I found my way out to Colorado and ended up with my second camp home at Chile Camps in Estes Park, and spent a bunch of years there. And in 2005, I started this camp. I started camp as a day camp, and we had day camps in Boulder and Denver, and went through that whole startup process, that whole creating from nothing thing. And in 2011, we started the resident camp, which is what we operate now, and it's Camp Granite Lake. So yeah, I've been doing camp pretty much the whole time.
That's a great story, and very it's a good lesson for parents that camp experiences don't always start out great.
Yeah, no, that one did not. It was bad.
It was such a different.
I'm still doing it, and it really did. A lot of things that happened that year and over the years, they really did inform the way we develop the program and the things that we do here at Camp Granite Lake.
I really thought that story was going to end a different way. I thought you were going to say that you didn't go back to that camp, but it turns out you ended up staying at that exact camp and having a great experience.
Yeah, for 15 years.
Okay, so Tommy, what is it that you loved so much about camp? How did it change you as a person, whether it was like as a camper or working there? What grabbed you about camp?
Well, I think I decided I wanted to be a camp director when I was about 12 or 13. I think it was building that, it's what we do here at Camp Granite Lake, but it's just building that community that, my home, I had a good home life growing up, but I really loved the friends and counselors that I had at camp and looked forward to it. And just never really wanted to do much else. I tried other things. I worked in tech in the late 90s and early 2000s, but camp was just always what I wanted to do. It just was those connections.
What did you study, like in school? Where did you go to school?
That's a great question. I went to Cornell University in New York, and I studied natural resource management. And I went almost 20 years before I used this natural resource management degree. And then we bought this property, and I use it. I used my degree, which was a focus in forestry, and on a daily basis to make decisions about the land, about how we manage the forest and the lake and the physical environment here. But that was so, and I never thought I would really use it, but I did. I do all the time now. So, and that's more on the facility side. In addition to being the founder and the director and the owner of this place, I'm the maintenance guy, and I'm also managing all the planning around how we, what we're going to do on the facility. This year, we're going to build a couple new cabins, and we're going to dredge out our lake and do some big, complex things that are not in the that the parents don't necessarily see me do on a daily basis.
Right. Well, parents just think we don't do anything all year until their kids arrive at our doorstep. That's okay. We want them to feel that way, that the kids just arrive and it's all magically ready for them, right?
And I don't know if you said this, but I'm actually here at camp today. We get to, I get to be up here because it's pretty close to town, and the road is not too snowy today. So if you see me looking off, I'm just looking at the beautiful trees and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, why don't you start by explaining where Camp Granite Lake is?
Well, it's funny when parents ask about camp, they always want to know, where is it? What do you do? And we try to rewind with them just a little bit and talk about our mission. Our goal is to be intrinsic to someone's lifelong growth through their connections with nature and each other. And then they're like, but what do you do? What do you do? And I say, well, it's as much about what we can do. Now we have this beautiful spot in Colorado where we can do all these great Colorado things. But it's really, it's the things that we do best are giving kids the opportunity to have conversations and make connections while they're walking down to the lake to go kayaking or sailing or all the awesome things we can do on our lake, or they're waiting for their next round to shoot archery, and they're just they're waiting to go rock climbing. They're slogging through the mud to do their to look for salamanders. We have these incredible purple salamander things that the kids love to find with our nature and ecology program. That's how we create these long-lasting relationships. Obviously connected to my experience as a kid, very intentionally connected. And then we do have this great arts program where kids get to express themselves in woodworking and culinary, ceramics, crafts, dance, music, all that kind of stuff. So that's why we do what we do. Camp itself, I think this is the question that most people want to hear about. It's 135 acres. We like to talk about the relational stuff because it's what we're really good at, and it's why we do it. But camp itself is a 135-acre property 9 miles southwest of Boulder, Colorado. So we're up in the foothills. If you don't know area very well. Boulder's right on the edge, and Golden, even Denver's just right on the edge of the Rockies, and it shoots up. We're at 9,000 feet. So I'm sitting here at 9,000 feet in the dry, windy air of today. It's windy. The winters are windy. Of Camp Granite Lake. We have our cabins have campers, are generally campers, but there's 6 to 12 campers in each one with 2 to 4 staff. Our ratio is like in the cabin, 3 to 4 counselors in the cabin. 3 to 4 campers per counselor in the cabin. We have a total of 150 campers in camp with 70 staff. That includes our about 48 cabin staff, our kitchen, and a 7-person director team. The thing about camp that is really unique is our lake. And for people from around the country who haven't been to Colorado, they don't necessarily know, but Colorado is really dry. And I always used to joke that there's 2 kinds of water in Colorado, frozen or running. And those are pretty much the only ones you get. We're lucky we have an 8-acre lake, which is small for some, but big for Colorado. So we get to do the sailing, and it's cold. We like to swim, but usually not too long because it's in the 50s for temperature. And we have programs, we have 2-week programs, just 2-week programs for boys and girls who have finished 2nd through 9th grade. And then we have a CIT program for kids who have finished 10th or 11th grade. And that's the core of our program.
Okay, so it's boys and girls starting from 2nd grade through 9th grade currently, right now. Where do your campers come from?
Most of our campers are from the Colorado Front Range, all the way up from Fort Collins down to Pueblo, and then that's the majority. And we are only 45 minutes from downtown Denver, even though we feel like we're off in the middle of the Rocky Mountains. And so I think that's something people like, is that it's close in, but it's far away. And then we draw from probably a dozen different states around the country. We have some East Coast, DC area, Connecticut. We have New Mexico, Midwest. So we draw from all over Florida. There's a nice contingent of Florida families. And but most of it's Colorado, or people who have had or have a Colorado connection.
And do the kids come, so the kids from out of state, I'm assuming they fly into Denver, and then do you pick them up there, or do parents, and within Colorado, do the parents drop their kids off, or do you have buses, or?
Yeah, so most of the parents drive right in here and drop their kids off and get to meet everybody and see their the kids' cabin space, and see the lake, and just have that experience of being at camp at the very beginning and also at the very end. And then for the families that are flying in, for the kids that are flying in, we send a couple of counselors down to Denver International Airport. We pick them up. We bring them up here, and definitely stay in close touch with the parents to know that transfer has been made if the campers are in the unaccompanied minor category. And a lot of them that are coming from out of state, not a lot, but the ones that have connections locally, oftentimes will have the aunts or uncles or friends pick them up at the airport, maybe the day before or that morning, and bring them up themselves, just so there's that in-person connection. But I go down to the airport a couple times this summer myself and love to meet those kids there. And sometimes it's just a few kids, a handful of kids, and we bring them up. Okay,
and so tell me again, what year did you start? What year is this for you right now?
So we started camp. The first year of camp was in 2005. And that story is my cousin Steve and I started camp together in 2005. He really helped me. He went to the same camp in northern Wisconsin that I did. It was his father that had gone to that camp, my uncle. And I said, "Hey, Steve, will you help me do this?" So he helped me, and we went through, and we started off as a day camp. We ran out of the Eldora ski resort, which is about 40 minutes west of Boulder and about 20 minutes from here. And we started off at the ski resort with 5 campers. And we ran 2 weeks of day camp, and it was great. I was not just the founder and director, I was the counselor and the driver and everything at that point. And then we ran day camps in Boulder for 10 years. Along the way, we started in 2011 with our resident camp, which was at a rented facility down in Buena Vista, sort of south central Colorado. We did that for 2 years. And then in the winter of really fall of 2012, stumbled into this property and spent about 6 months sort of putting together the deal to buy it. It was a church camp for about 40 years, and we've done a bunch of improvements to it. And so in 2013 was our first year here at Camp Granite Lake at the site. And we've been here ever since. We actually, at that point, decided to phase out our day camps. I love day camp. And it's great. It's a great lifestyle for the directors. I love, the thing that I think terrifies resident camp directors a little bit is that daily interactions with parents. I just love seeing the parents in the morning, afternoon, and talking about the experience of the day and having those small benchmarks. And what we found is, and I love resident camp. I love the overnight camp experience. I love having the campers live here and feeding them and giving them this just absorptive experience. And we found after a couple of years of running the day and the resident camps, it was too much. It wasn't even really a business decision. It was too much. We as a leadership team couldn't focus our attention right in all the places we needed. It was just spread out, Denver, Boulder, Mountain. Yeah, so we sort of phased those out, and now we're just doing the resident camp, and camp has grown a lot since we did that. It allowed us to focus and just do one thing really, really well.
That's a great story. And what I was actually getting at was, do you have, like, now, since you've been around and I'm sure some of the same kids started even at the other location, have you seen kids who have grown up as campers now coming back as counselors? Like, are you at that point in the camp?
We are very close.
Okay.
One of our first campers, she and her sister, Megan and Annabelle, were our first two campers. And I knew their mother and said, "Hey, will you send your kids?" They were little then, 7 and 9. Annabelle's out of heat, 21 or 22 now. She's in school, and she's been a counselor with us at the resident camp for a few years. She was in the day camp for years. She did our backpacking program. She was not a camper in the resident camp. But she has been a counselor here now in the resident camp for 3 years. So we are really close, and it's an interesting thing to have to. It's really focused our staff training because the counselors weren't campers in those same spaces, and so to teach them about what the campers are going through has forced us to really focus on the intentionality of the whole experience. And they get it. And we have counselors that come back now year after year. One of our village directors, Jen, has been with us since 2007. I met her like a week before I met my wife, and she was going into a master's program. Jen has now since completed her master's program, her PhD, been a professor at multiple universities, gotten married, had a kid. So we do have some longevity here in some of our staff, but it's one of those things about being a new camp that you don't have as much institutional memory. And sometimes that's really good too, because when things don't go well and you want to do it differently, you can quickly unremember things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, you brought so much experience other places into what you're doing there that you had a really good idea of what you wanted. And it's almost easier without people having preconceived notions if you're starting something new to be able to set up the culture the way you want it. So on that topic, you've already talked a little bit about kind of your focus on the relationships and experience. It sounds like that's kind of your big focus. So I'm curious as to like how you're training your staff, or what are some things that you do to really help kids in that area to feel connected, to build those relational skills while they're at camp.
Our staff training is 8 days long, and we really take the staff through the experience of what it's like for the campers to arrive that first time and give them a good sense of being in those campers' shoes. And we also practice model and just let them experience firsthand some of the key moments that we that we set up for the campers. And those start from the very first. I was describing when the parents drop their kids off. Well, they drop their kids off, they put their bags in a pile, they go see the cabin, they go down to the lake, and then when it's time to go, they drive away, and we ring the bell, and we come in the big hall right behind me here. They come into the big hall, and it's a big space, and we go through some of the rules and just some of the guidelines, and then our assistant director Tom does what we would say is the it's like the guiding social compact that we have for everybody there. And there's basically 3 rules. And the first one is be kind. And that's help others and be a friend to others. The second is be kind. That's the second rule. If you didn't get the first, the second one is be kind. And that's have tolerance for others and respect for others, even when it's hard. And the third rule, if you can guess, is be kind. And that is be kind in our actions and in our words. And it's more in depth than that, but really it's about, creating this just positive community and social community. And that's just the first thing. And then on Friday nights, we get together as a camp community down at our amphitheater, and we do our Friday night campfires, which are reflective times. We talk about community and appreciation, respect, our place in the natural world. We hear quotes, we sing songs, and just take some reflective time to build that sort of positive social community. One of the things that we do that I took, so much of what we've done is just an adaptation of the camps and experiences that I had. And the staff all bring in new activities and ideas, and the leadership team is always trying out new things. One of our core values as a business is being innovative and being sort of intellectually rigorous about that. So we always try new stuff, but we think about it a lot. And so one of the things that we have adapted for camp is like a recognition ceremony that happens on Friday nights, and it's a chance for campers and staff to publicly and positively acknowledge other individuals for how they help them through the week. And I tell we call it a key log ceremony. There's a whole big sort of background story, and I tell this big story about it, and then invite the campers sort of one small group at a time to get up individually and listen to a camper talking about how much they appreciated another moment with another camper or a counselor or the chefs or the whole community. And I say to our leadership team, the number of hours it takes for us to get to that moment, to sit and listen to those campers. So as I like to say, sort of spreading to the ether, talking out loud and letting everybody hear about those positive moments is thousands and thousands of people hours. And in that time, it's worth it. It's worth it for us, but it's really worth it for the kids and the counselors. And that's what that's sort of the pinnacle time of the week. We do it each Friday night. We also have a time. So that's the big one. There's a smaller version of that we adapted from another camp, where the campers in the evening before they go to bed go to their own individual campfire site, and sit around the 8 or 10, maybe 12 of them, and have a conversation that we usually try to frame around. There's a conversation, a little activity that's structured, and it's kind of conversations that kids aren't having necessarily the rest of the year. They're really, and they tend to get sort of in depth. They're very age appropriate. So for our junior campers who are 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, they're fun, and their appreciations, and they're engaging in that way. As you get into the intermediate and senior villages, we present an opportunity for campers to really dig as deep as they're comfortable, and really share with each other and with the cabin in that small setting, not just appreciations, but about topics. One of our favorites is the funeral for the words "I can't," and they write on a piece of paper the things that they can't do, the things that they want to let go of, and the things that they struggle with, and they put in the fire. And there's that kind of ceremony. And each week we do that as well on Wednesday evening. Now, the junior campers tend to get to the s'mores at the end quicker than the senior campers do. But it's fun, and there's usually s'mores and that kind of thing afterwards. So those are some examples of some moments of specific character trait development that we try to make happen.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. I just am getting all like chills from thinking about all the great things that are happening with those kids. So with your counselors, do you train them then? Are there actually like kind of specific topics that they're covering? Like, for example, that I can't funeral for I can't. Is that something that like a certain age group is always doing on a certain day? Do you have it that well planned out for the counselors? Yeah. Okay.
Well, at the beginning of the summer, we plan it out really carefully, and we go through in our staff training. We actually take them through the actual ceremony or activity itself, and let them just participate. Because again, it's the best way for them to get what the campers are going through when you experience it first person. And we have a bunch of these activities. It's not the same one every single week or every single session repeated. And what counselors do is they develop and grow and get to be even better within sort of the Camp Granite Lake community. Is they find ones that they're comfortable with, that they really can deliver, that their campers need. You know, it's 4 days in, and this is what this cabin group is going through. Come to their village director and they'll say, I need one that does this. And if we don't have one I need something, I need to bring this group together in this way, or we're really struggling with that, or they're great at this, but I want them to be great at that. And they will work with them to either take one from our library of activities, or we'll come up with a new one, or they'll come to us and say, hey, we want to try this. Great. Let's try it. And how did it go? And so that's, the counselors get to grow into that a lot. And it becomes, we hire staff that, I like to say that it's easy we can train somebody to lead a hike or manage a group at ceramics, or even lead theater or, kayak. And we get people coming in who end up on the water with not the biggest canoeing experience, but we teach them how to do it. We can teach the hard skills. We have most of our activities take place at camp, and other than, say, our backpacking program where we go up to Rocky Mountain National Park for a few days with the intermediates and senior campers, and those counselors need to come in with some very specific wilderness first aid trainings and things like that, and driver experience. The counselors, we seek counselors who understand what they're getting into from a social and social dynamic and positive community standpoint, and that's so because you can't train that 8 days. So when they get to those embers situations, those embers ceremonies, or those times where they need to bring their cabin together or deal with a social dynamic, they've got some good grounding, and we're just bringing them into how we do it at Camp Granite Lake, and here are the boundaries in that.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're a perfect example of a camp director who is so intentional about the way you're programming around specific outcomes that you're wanting to happen in the kids. When you were talking about the be kind, I was just like, hooray. I mean, there's a thing, that's a lesson kids and adults are not hearing enough of in the world. So do you hear from families after the kids get home that they are kinder, or they're talking that language more after being at Camp Granite Lake?
We do. And we hear that they make their bed more. We hear the more concrete things that are easily observed. And what we do is we hope that they make their bed more and that they're kind. And we know that the make their bed more kind of doesn't last necessarily forever. But we hope that the kind stuff lasts a long time, and so yeah, we do, and I have a quote here. Let me see. Hold on, I can find a quote. If you want to hear a quote.
Oh yes, I love quotes.
Okay, We love quotes too, and we get this feedback from parents, and this is just one example of one that I think speaks to what we do here. So it says this: "My son is quite a handful. He's more wiggly than most boys, more rambunctious than most boys, more sensitive than most boys, and certainly has good days and bad. Camp Granite Lake and the staff have never been shy about accepting him with fully open arms. They find the good in him so he can see it too, allowing him to feel safe, make mistakes, and learn from that experience to grow and become more confident and sure of himself every day." And when we get a quote like that, we're like, that's why we do this. This is why we do it. It's those kinds of boys and girls that we want to take care of and have in our community.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Well, I'm seeing a lot of you have a lot of bringing camp home. It sounds like you have a whole resource file that parents could learn from these discussions and activities. So we're going to have to talk more about that, because I feel like that library that your counselors go to and that you've developed of the things that the kids need at different times, that's something that, parents, as you know, and we haven't talked about that yet, but as parents, you really only get like 1 or 2 shots at a certain age or, gender or whatever. And so, your kid hits an age, you're like, what the heck is going on with this? So how nice to be able to have a resource like your camp where the counselors and you are following them along and kind of giving them age appropriate discussions and depth in the way they're talking about these things. That's really exciting. When we started out and when we were building the camp, it was really like heady and talky, if that's the way. And I don't want it to sound too much like that, because we're still out there like doing disc golf and running around and being crazy and having fun and doing crazy evening campfires. Like all the stuff that like I would hope a parent expects at camp happens, and we're not talking about it. So I just want to make sure like we have a lot of fun too. I mean, I live up here with my family, my wife, Allie, who's a pediatrician, and my 2 young kids. And, it's just fun all the time. All this intentional stuff is, I don't even think the staff realize how intentional it is, which is good, because it's really not their job to worry about that. We just want them to focus on the kids and have fun in these different contexts. So I just want to make sure, like, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a good time. Oh, I think parents really appreciate when they know their kids are having a lot of fun, but to know that at some point during the time, there's going to be like, a little bit of thinking and depth and maybe reflection, which is kind of lacking for kids kind of in general life. They're kind of overscheduled and running around and maybe on screens a lot. So I think to go to camp, yes, so much fun and friendship and all that great stuff, but that growth piece really needs a little bit of nurturing, so I think it's important that that I would own that if I were you, because I think a lot of camps have the fun going on. Not necessarily does everybody have that level of growth that you just read about in that letter from that parent. That shows you're making huge transformations in kids because you are thinking about what they need and how you can help them grow. And I think that's really awesome. So yes, kids grow best when they're having fun and doing all this other stuff, but it doesn't happen if you don't plan it a little bit.
Yeah. It's part of just that being that newer camp. We don't have the generations of families who just get it. And so everything has to be intentional. Typically parents are either in one of 2 categories. They went to camp as a kid and think camp's a good thing and find us. Or they're new to camp. And so for the families that are new to camp, because so many of the campers here are new to camp, we just don't have the thousands and thousands and thousands of families over the years to build. We have to be intentional. We have to teach the parents what we're about, more than just the archery and the sailing, but it also has to be fun for the kids. And so we're constantly evaluating whether we're sort of meeting those goals. And it's not just we can't just do what we've always done. We haven't always done it.
Right. So Tommy, for parents who are thinking about, wow, this looks really cool for my kid, do you talk to parents? Do you meet them? I think you mentioned maybe you even give tours. How can people find out more about Camp Granite Lake? What's the best way to do that?
The first step is we'd like the first step to be a call, but a lot of times parents want to know a little bit more. So we invite them to the website, campgranitelake.com, all spelled out, Camp Granite Lake. And we hope that quickly they pick up the phone to call or send in a little form so we can talk to them on the phone. And one of the things...
What's your phone number, just so I can put it right on?
720-249-2997.
Just put the link to your website too, so that they're right here with us on our post.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, so you got campgranitelake.com, 720-249-2997. And then our year-round team is just made up of me, and then Tom is our assistant director, and Krista is our program director. And we try to answer the phone as much as possible and get back to people right away because we're small and we just want to make that connection. We do tours all year round. We got a few tours tomorrow. The lake is frozen thick and there's piles of snow everywhere, but the road is open and we can show people what the space looks like. They can come up and see a slideshow and meet us in person, come with their campers if they can, and let them stand in the space that is camp. And that's really how it is. And if you can't make it out here and you're not local, we'll do web interactions, or if you really want to meet someone, we'll just hop on a plane and meet you wherever you are. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, and you have a really great website too that I think is really helpful because it kind of walks parents through, like, first look at this and then, start here. I really like how you've made it really easy for people to just get the whole picture of all the things that you're doing at Camp Granite Lake.
And the website doesn't have the real nitty gritty because we know as a parent, there are specific questions you just want to get answered. And that's why we ask, call and sure. We talk to everybody on the phone and go from there. And so.
Yeah. And you want to meet the people before their kids come to camp, and you're wanting to start this relationship that's going to go on just like your camp experience that you ended up going there for years and working there. That's the kind of families that I know you have at Granite Lake. You want to get to know them before they start and stay in relationship with them as their kids are growing up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so cool. Tommy, anything else that we missed that you want to share that you think is important to talk about or that I forgot to ask you?
No, I think as you know, we camp directors can talk about our camps forever.
Yes, we can.
And so, I think it's great. I hope people got a sense of what we do, why we do it, and it's fun. It's fun to sit in the room with you and just talk about camp. You'll have to come up and visit next time you're in Boulder.
Absolutely. Well, I just think you have a great program, and I'm so excited that we have this opportunity to share it with hopefully some new families who maybe didn't know about your camp because it is a little bit newer. But so families who are interested in an amazing residential camp in Colorado, Camp Granite Lake is ready for you. Do you still have space for this summer? First of all, too.
That is a good question.
Okay.
We have 4 2-week sessions.
Uh-huh.
Our third and fourth sessions are getting pretty tight. Our second session, which is sort of over 4th of July, is getting a little tight. And our first session has a good amount of space right now. That starts sort of the second week of June. And our website is fully up to date with that space. And again, just call if you have any questions.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you, Tommy, for being on the Happy Campers interview series. And thank you, people who are watching. And I encourage you to check it out and give Tommy and Tom a call and talk to them about Camp Granite Lake.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me for this Happy Campers interview bonus podcast episode. If you're interested in learning more about how you can bring home some of the magic of summer camp, I'd love for you to pick up a copy of my book, Happy Campers, 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults. It's available for pre-order now and comes out on May 7th. And you can find more information about it on my website by going to happycampersbook.com. To thank you for pre-ordering the book, I have a couple of fun freebies. The first of which is the first chapter, Camp Secret Number 1, Connection Comes First. I'll also send you an invitation to join my private Facebook group that's called the Happy Campers Book Club, where we'll be sharing resources, videos, and conversation about raising kids who become thriving adults. To access these freebies, simply pre-order your copy of the book and then fill out the form at happycampersbook.com. Together, we can spread the happiness of summer camp to the whole world.